the newest addition actually to the research profile. I've only been here short of 2 years, and I'm going to present what I've done so far. We've gone through some of the holistic, more fuzzy stuff. Now we're going to go more into the concrete result, but we're going to stay a little bit on the fuzzy things anyway, because what I'm being rich about is connecting value and data, a journey about quantifying the fluffy stuff. So looking more into details, okay, how do I actually work with value and turn that in collaboration with the data. My research has mainly been with Dynapack, but also done some the workshop with JKM for this work. So this work was the result of those two collaborations. But generally, and Tobias was mentioning at the start that there are currently there are two trends for creating value. The first trend is the digitalization, where we partly have a digitalization as a tool to actually be able to better assess the value creation in the product or the service, but the data itself is also an addition with value. So we can actually use that data to create new value for customers. The other aspect is the servitization, that we are connecting services to the products that OEM or manufacturing firm produces. So we add services along the life cycle to increase the value. Not only that we increase the value at that point, but also make sure that value is delivered more evenly throughout the life cycle. But there is actually a third one, and that is the connection between these two. And this is where my research comes in. So how can we actually use the potential for digitalization and support in the servitization? So take an example. If we have a compaction roller, looks like this. That today it's produced and does its job, is compacts the asphalt or the ground, whatever it's supposed to do. And then we poke in a little computer chip and we put on an antenna, and then we send that data to a system. So then we made this more digital. So how can we then use this data for value? Or we can actually put that data on a cloud server, get it onto some APIs, and then we can actually have that data to increase or create new services, like, for instance, predictive maintenance or fleet management systems and those kinds of aspects. So there is potential to create new things and create new businesses. But the question I asked is then, where is the value itself? What is the value that is created? And how does, on a more detailed level, data and service drive value? To do that, we had to ask the great philosophical question, what is value? So to go through how value is formed, and I'm sure one way how it is formed in literature, we start off with the nice bubble of value. We then divide this. Most people say that value, it is satisfaction over expenses or cost. But satisfaction, we can actually boil that down even further to say, okay, satisfaction that are or benefits that are connected to the functional aspect, what is the purpose of the product or service, or non-functional that are more of the fuzzy, the qualities. And this is where my focus has been. Okay, how do we work with the non-function? Because most people are fighting. If you go out to your customers and ask them, what do you want? They will be very sure of the functional aspect, and they will be able to tell you this and send you an Excel sheet where it's all stable. But the non-functional are a little bit harder to actually boil down and make into concrete statement. Just to give an example of what non-functional, it could be about the flexibility of a product or service, the usability, maintainability, or convenience. So how do you actually, if you ask a customer and they say, I want a convenient machine, then you ask yourself, what is that? So how do we actually define that? And the aim is then ultimately to actually boil these down to specific objectives or requirements. So my main part, what I'm working on today is actually, okay, how do we actually create this sort of flow and this sort of tables where we can actually go from specific requirements that we can have or we can obtain, and then work those up to actually get some sort of feeling for what value is. But as I said, we also have the data aspect. So if we just take this and we go flip, we have the similar say, but within the data. So we can actually distinguish data to specific data sets that we have, and then those could be formed into classes, and then we have ultimately few dimensions of data that goes all the way into some that are called operational data that we can actually collect in live stream. The interesting aspect here is that, okay, we actually managed to connect these two perspectives. We have value here and we have data here. So if we manage to connect these two, then we have actually the possibility to, by the data, get an assessment of how well we fulfill a specific requirement. And then we can aggregate that to actually, okay, this is the value we actually deliver to the customer. And you can do this either by, okay, let's take a look at the portfolio level and do a benchmarking. How well does our products or services behave? Or how do they behave compared to competitors? Maybe we are performing less in flexibility, but we're really good at maintainability. So that the overall value, we are actually better than competitors, but we have focused on different aspects. Or how can we actually then see and provide the customer a perspective of value? So this is on a holistic level, this is my research, what it has been so far. But putting it more into practice, where one of the collaborations that Matilda was on, where we collaborate with the group model building to actually create or to get this perspective in a more visual form. So we actually have worked on the left side, so we have the value here on the one side, and actually have this sort of cascading downward. We're actually put in, and this is an example from a workshop with Dynapack. We looked at specifically reliability. So we have the objectives in reliability, and we have weighted them, and we have assessed the knowledge maturity, and then we actually connected it. So we can see that, okay, we have a specific objective, we can actually have influence on multiple different strains in the non-functional domain and in the functional. So it's not this super clear one-liner. And the result of this is then to be able to actually better see and visualize and provide a design team with a more holistic view of how is value created in a product or in a service. And then the next step is then, okay, how can we actually use data to sort of get a quantitative assessment of how the value is. And if we try to tweak it, if we add the what Johan talked about, the simulation driven design, can we tweak some design parameters to optimize the value? So the ultimate goal of this framework is to show on a more overall level how value is created within a product, especially looking at the non-functional domain, how these contribute to the ultimate value that are provided to the customers in the product. So just to give a quick conclusions, the current trends of digitalization certification are increasing the importance of non-functional aspects, because these digitalization and certification does not increase the compaction performance, for instance. They are on the non-functional side. And also that the data have this double potential, that it adds value in itself, but it's also a means to assess value. And finally, the value data framework, once I showed you, is one way to visualize this and give the design team a holistic view of how value is created. Then, apart from simple NPV. So, thank you.